The hardest financial trap to escape isn't poverty, it's a high salary. I know professionals earning $500,000 a year who are technically poorer than the barista serving their coffee. They have higher incomes, certainly, but they have zero options. They are handcuffed to a lifestyle that demands their silence and their obedience. They are terrified that one missed paycheck will bring their entire house of cards crashing down. Most people spend their entire adult lives chasing a specific number, 1 million, 5 million. They think that once they hit it, the anxiety will finally stop. It doesn't, because financial freedom isn't a number in a bank account. It is a ratio. It is the relationship between what you own and what owns you. The old advice, save 10%, buy a house, wait 40 years, is failing. But the alternative you see online is even worse. The algorithms are screaming at you to buy meme coins or day trade your savings. That is not a strategy, that is entertainment. And relying on entertainment to build your future is exactly why most people stay stuck. We need to clear the noise. This is the blueprint. It is not sexy, it is not a secret hack, it is the boring, counterintuitive framework that separates the wealthy from the merely high-paid. It is the difference between looking rich to your neighbors and actually sleeping well at night. But before we can build, we have to stop the bleeding. Because right now, there is a silent killer in your finances that has nothing to do with how much coffee you buy or how the stock market performs. The reason you feel broke isn't inflation, and it isn't taxes. It is a psychological mechanism called Parkinson's Law. In its original context, Parkinson's Law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. But in wealth psychology, the law is even more ruthless. Expenses rise to meet income. This is the default setting of the human brain. It explains why you felt broke when you made $50,000 and why you still feel broke now that you make $250,000. Here is the trap. When your income jumps, you don't just save the difference. You upgrade your baseline. You move from the apartment to the house, from the Toyota to the Tesla, from the commercial gym to the private club. On the surface, this looks like success. You worked hard, so you upgraded your lifestyle, but look at the math. You haven't actually increased your wealth. You have simply increased your overhead. I call this lifestyle capture. When you earn $50,000 and spend $50,000, you are broke. When you earn $500,000 and spend $500,000, you are not just broke, you are fragile. In fact, the high earner is often in a more dangerous position than the low earner. This is counterintuitive, so stay with me. If a low earner loses their job, their monthly burn rate might be $3,000. That is a solvable problem. They can drive Uber, cut costs, or rely on a small safety net to survive. But if a high earner loses their job, their burn rate might be $25,000 a month. They have a jumbo mortgage, private school tuition, car leases, and insurance premiums. These are fixed costs. You cannot just cut back on a mortgage payment. This creates a psychological prison. The high earner cannot afford to stop working, not even for a month. They become terrified of losing their position. They stop taking risks. They stop innovating. They cling to the corporate ladder because it's the only thing sustaining their massive monthly nut. You end up running your life like a business with high revenue but zero profit margin. And any business owner will tell you, a company with zero margin is one bad quarter away from bankruptcy. This is why you feel stress rather than freedom. You have built a golden cage and you are handing the key to your employer every single morning. But here is where it gets interesting. We are living in an era of mimetic desire. Social media has rewired our brains to want what other people have instantly. We don't just want a car, we want the specific car our peer group respects. We don't just want a vacation, we want the resort that signals we've made it. You are fighting a war on two fronts. Internally, your brain wants to spend every dollar you earn to maximize comfort. Externally, the culture is screaming at you to upgrade your status symbols to prove your worth. This combination is lethal. It is the reason you see doctors, lawyers, and tech executives living paycheck to paycheck just at a much higher altitude than everyone else. If we don't decouple your ego from your spending, no amount of income will save you. You could make $10 million a year, and Parkinson's Law would ensure you spend $10 million and one. We need to break the pattern. We need to shift from a high overhead life to a high equity life. To do that, We need to completely change how you view the purpose of money. Most people try to solve a spending problem with an income solution. They think, if I just make another $50,000, I'll finally be able to save. But as we've just seen, without the right architecture, that extra money will simply evaporate. The solution is to stop viewing money as a tool for consumption and start viewing it as an employee. Every dollar you earn has two potential destinies. It can either leave your hands to buy a product, at which point it is gone forever, or it can be deployed to do a job. When you deploy a dollar into an asset, it becomes a worker that never sleeps, never complains, and never asks for a raise. This blueprint is not about hoarding cash. It is about aggressively converting your labor, which is finite and exhausting, into capital, which is infinite and scalable. We are going to structure this transformation across three specific pillars: psychology, math, and mechanics. Let's start with pillar 1, the psychology. This is where the war is actually won or lost. We live in an economy that runs on mimetic desire. This concept from philosopher René Girard simply means that we don't inherently know what we want. We learn what to want by watching other people. You didn't want the specific luxury watch until you saw someone you respect wearing it. We mimic the desires of our tribe. And today, your phone is a machine designed to manufacture desire 24 hours a day. Here is the counterintuitive truth. Wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the nice car not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the first-class upgrade declined. Wealth is financial assets that haven't yet been converted into the stuff you see. But because we are social animals, we judge success by what is visible. If your neighbor buys a $100,000 car, you say, "Wow, he's doing well." But all you actually know is that he has $100,000 less in the bank or $100,000 more in debt. You have seen his consumption, not his wealth. The first step is to decouple your ego from your spending. You have to become comfortable with the gap between what you can afford and what you do buy. I call this the gap of autonomy. The wider that gap is, the more free you are. If you earn $200,000 but live like you earn $50,000, you are unbreakable. You have massive margins. You can take risks. You can quit a toxic job. You can start a business. But if you earn $200,000 and live like you earn $200,000, you are just a highly paid indentured servant. This requires a shift in identity. You have to stop trying to impress strangers. You have to realize that when you see someone driving a Ferrari, you don't think that guy is cool. You think, I would look cool in that Ferrari. Nobody cares about your possessions. They only care about what your possessions say about them. Once you realize this, the urge to spend fades. You realize you are buying things to fill a void that cannot be filled by things. Now, let's move to pillar 2, the mathematics. Most financial advice is obsessed with net worth, but net worth is a vanity metric. You can have a net worth of $2 million locked up in a primary residence and retirement accounts you can't touch and still be unable to pay for groceries if you lose your income. You are paper rich and cash poor. We are going to ignore net worth for a moment and focus on the only metric that matters for freedom, the freedom ratio. The math is simple: passive cash flow divided by monthly burn rate. Your burn rate is exactly what it sounds like: how much cash you set on fire every month to keep your life running. Mortgage, food, insurance, subscriptions. Your passive cash flow is money that arrives whether you get out of bed or not. Dividends, interest, rental income. When that ratio hits 1.0, you are free. If your burn rate is $10,000 a month and your assets generate $10,000 a month, you have retired. It doesn't matter if you're 30 or 60, you have won the game. Now here is the part that changes everything. It is mathematically easier to lower your burn rate than it is to increase your passive cash flow. To generate an extra $1,000 a month in safe passive income, you generally need about $250,000 in invested capital. That takes a long time to save. But to save $1,000 a month by optimizing your lifestyle, you can do that this weekend. Every $1,000 you cut from your monthly overhead is effectively worth $250,000 in freedom. Let that sink in. If you cancel an unused car lease that costs $800 a month, you have essentially given yourself a $200,000 endowment. You have lowered the finish line. This is why the high earners are trapped. Their burn rate is so high that the amount of capital they need to reach a freedom ratio of 1.0 is astronomical. They need $6, $7, $8 million just to maintain their current lifestyle, so they keep running on the treadmill, terrified of falling off. The blueprint demands that you ruthlessly audit your burn rate, not because you are cheap, but because you are buying your freedom back from the market. Once the psychology is fixed and the math is set, we look at pillar 3, the mechanics. Where do you actually put the money? This is where most people get paralyzed. They are looking for the best investment. They want the crypto coin that does 100x or the hot tech stock, but wealth isn't built by hitting home runs. It is built by not striking out. We need to convert your labor, which is finite, tiring, and taxed at the highest rates, into capital, which is infinite, tireless, and taxed at lower rates. The mechanic we use here is automated asset allocation. You need to view your income as a river. Right now, that river flows into a lake called checking account, and then it drains out into a swamp called spending. We need to build a dam. Every single time you get paid, a percentage of that money must be automatically diverted into assets before you even see it. It has to happen without your permission. If you have to manually transfer the money, you will fail. You will find a reason to spend it. So what are we buying? We are buying ownership. When you buy a stock, you are not buying a lottery ticket. You are buying a piece of a business that has thousands of smart people working to make you money. When you buy real estate, you are buying a physical asset that provides a necessary service. For the vast majority of intelligent professionals, your edge is not in stock picking. You are not going to beat the algorithms on Wall Street. Your edge is time and behavior. The mechanic is boring. It looks like buying low-cost, broad market index funds or cash-flowing real estate and doing it every single month regardless of whether the market is up or down. I know. You wanted a secret. You wanted me to tell you to buy a specific sector or leverage AI trading bots. But ask yourself, do you want to feel excitement or do you want to be rich? Because they are usually mutually exclusive. Exciting investments are usually gambling. Boring investments are usually profitable. The goal is to build a portfolio that is anti-fragile. Most portfolios break when the market crashes. We want a position that benefits from volatility. How do you do that? You hold cash. This is the part nobody talks about. In a high interest rate environment, cash is not trash. Cash is optionality. When you have 12 months of expenses sitting in liquid cash, you are not desperate. When the market crashes, and it will crash, you don't panic sell. You buy. You become the liquidity provider for everyone else who is freaking out. That is how the rich get richer during recessions. They don't have better information than you. They just have better liquidity. So let's look at the implementation. First, the audit. Sit down tonight. Look at your last 3 months of spending. Identify the mimetic spending, the stuff you bought to impress people or soothe your ego. Cut it. Be ruthless. Second, calculate your freedom number. Take your new, lean monthly expenses and multiply by 25. That is the rough amount of invested capital you need to be free. Third, build the dam. Set up an automatic transfer for the day after your payday. Move 20%, 30%, 50% of your income, whatever you can manage, into a brokerage account. Treat this transfer like a tax. You don't get to spend it. It's gone. It belongs to your future self. Fourth, deploy into boring assets. Buy the entire market. Keep buying. Do not try to time the market. Time in the market beats timing the market. Now, I can hear the objection forming in your mind, but this will take 10 years. I want to be free now. And you're right. It might take 10 years, it might take 15, but consider the alternative. If you don't do this, you will be working for 40 or 50 years. You will be stressed about money until the day you die. 10 years of discipline to buy 40 years of freedom is the best trade you will ever make. And here is the strange thing that happens when you start this process. You don't have to wait 10 years to feel better. The anxiety disappears almost immediately. Why? Because anxiety comes from a lack of control. When you are spending everything you earn, you are out of control. You are a passenger in a car with no brakes. The moment you build that gap, the moment you save your first $10,000, your first $50,000, you regain the wheel. You know that if your boss yells at you, you have options. You know that if the economy turns, you will be okay. That feeling? That is the beginning of wealth. But there is one final trap that catches people even after they start this journey. It's a subtle one, and it destroys more financial freedom plans than market crashes ever could. It has to do with who you spend your time with. You can have the perfect budget, the automated transfers, and the right asset allocation. But if you spend your weekends with people who treat spending money as a competitive sport, you will fail. This is the proximity trap. We like to think we are independent thinkers. We aren't. We are social chameleons. If your 5 closest friends upgrade their cars every 2 years, you will eventually feel a subconscious itch that your car is inadequate. Not because it's broken, but because it's socially out of sync. The mistake most people make is relying on willpower to resist this pressure. They think, I'll just hang out with the big spenders, but I won't spend. That is a losing battle. Willpower is a battery. It drains throughout the day. Your environment is gravity. It is constant. In a war between willpower and environment remains undefeated. When you are the only person in your circle who says no to the expensive dinner or no to the group trip, you create social friction. That friction is uncomfortable. Eventually, to stop the friction, you swipe the card. You rationalize it as networking or making memories, but really, you are paying a tax to fit in. If you are serious about this blueprint, you have to accept a hard truth. You cannot build an abnormal life while maintaining normal habits with normal people. Normal is debt. Normal is living paycheck to paycheck to look rich. If you want to be free, you have to be willing to be the odd one out. You have to be comfortable being the person who orders the appetizer instead of the entree or drives the paid-off sedan while your peers lease the luxury SUV. This doesn't mean you need to cut off all your friends, but you must ruthlessly curate your inputs. You need to find or build a wealth tribe. These are people who are playing the same game you are. When you are around people who value autonomy over status, saving money doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like a shared victory. The most dangerous mistake is underestimating the magnetic pull of your social circle. You are trying to escape the gravity of a consumerist culture. If you tether yourself to people who love that gravity, you will never reach escape velocity. Financial freedom is often a lonely path in the beginning. You will be misunderstood. People will think you're cheap. They might even think you're struggling because you aren't flashing the signals of success they recognize. Let them think that. In fact, encourage it. Because while they are focused on looking rich today, you are focused on being free forever. And the silence of a bank account that can weather any storm is worth infinitely more than the applause of a dinner party. You now have the architecture. But information without execution is just entertainment. And frankly, you don't need more entertainment, you need autonomy. The path we've laid out today, auditing your psychology, fixing your freedom ratio, automating your asset accumulation, and curating your circle, is not complex. It is actually deceptively simple. But do not confuse simple with easy. This path is difficult because it requires you to be an adult in a world that profits from you acting like a child. The entire global economy is engineered to exploit your impulses. It is designed to make you trade your permanent freedom for temporary dopamine. To opt out of that system, to say enough, is an act of rebellion. Most people will watch this video, nod their heads, and go right back to buying things they don't need to impress people they don't like. They will arrive in 5 years exactly where they are today, anxious, fragile, and waiting for a raise that won't fix the problem. Don't let that be you. This is the year you stop trying to solve a spending problem with an income solution. This is the year you realize that every dollar you divert from consumption to capital is a soldier you are recruiting for your own defense. You are not depriving yourself, you are building a fortress. And yes, it will be quiet. Your neighbors won't applaud your index funds. Your friends won't envy your lack of car payments. There is no status signal for financial peace of mind. But in 5 years, when the market turns or the industry shifts, look at the difference. While everyone else is panicked, you will be calm. While they are forced to take whatever work they can get, you will have options. And options are the only luxury that actually matters. Remember what I said at the start about high earners being the poorest people I know? Now you know why. They built a life they have to work for. You are going to build a life that works for you. The question isn't whether you can afford the lifestyle. The question is whether you can afford to be owned by it. If you are ready to stop playing the status game and start playing the wealth game, you're in the right place. I don't do hype and I don't do secrets. I do what works. If that resonates with you, subscribe. Let's build something permanent. I'll see you in the next one.